Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be part of our community, head on over to missionmatters.com/community to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We have on Kristen Van Dyke, who's the Executive Director of the Foundation for Hearing and Speech Resources, also known as FHSR. And we have an important mission today. As always, we're going to bring awareness to a topic, but today's topic is, I think, extremely special and important. We're going to talk about of course, FHSR, but also the 136 campaign and really what parents out there need to know with newborn infants. And we got a whole lot to cover. But first off, I'll just start by saying, hey, Kristen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so we got a lot to cover, as I mentioned, and excited to bring this news to our audience, and also, everyone that's out there with kids, because it's a very important topic dealing with hearing loss for infants. But we'll start this episode the way that we start them all. You already know the drill, as does our audience. We'll start with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Kristen, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and enterprises. That's our mission. Kristen, what mission matters to you?
Well, statistically speaking, for every 1,000 children born in Illinois, 2 to 3 babies will be born with hearing loss. That's why the
Mm,
Foundation for Hearing and Speech Resources encourages parents to take the crucial step towards ensuring their infant's optimal hearing health. If your baby fails their newborn hearing screening exam, that first step is to book a follow up appointment with your local pediatric audiologist to check on your baby's hearing within their first month of life. To
mm,
support parents, FHSR has created the 136 Pediatric Hearing Loss Awareness Campaign. Our goal is to be a key resource to help parents through this process. Hearing is essential. It is a component to the child's overall well being and plays a pivotal role in their language and cognitive development. Studies have shown early detection, early action produce lifelong results, and FHSR is the resource to help those families.
Great. And one of the reasons, again, why I'm happy to bring this to my audience, but we're going to talk more about the 136 campaign, of course. And also, you mentioned what to do in the first month. I also want to know, third month and sixth month. But before we get further into the campaign, I do want to maybe talk and educate the people on FHSR in general. So maybe just start off by telling us a little bit more about how you got involved with the organization and really took that, executive director role.
Absolutely. My work is both professional and personal. My own
Mm,
child was born 17 years ago with pediatric hearing loss. He was born deaf and
mm,
underwent cochlear implant surgery at 6 months of age, second youngest in the state of Illinois, for
mm.
bilateral implants. And he's a rock star and he's doing amazing. I joined the board when I found out about it when he was just a baby because I wanted to give back. I knew immediately
Mm,
how important it was to make sure that children had access to the wonderful programs that FHSR has
mm,
created over the course of the last 17 years that I've been with them. 8 years ago, I became the executive director, marrying
mm.
my education and my background in early childhood interventions, and created this programs for the foundation that really help put kids on a path to
Mm,
lifelong results. Our programs incorporate creating a compassionate community. We have
mm.
music programming for children. We have education support for children. We have education support for parents. We know that an educated parent is the best advocate for their child with hearing loss. So we do everything we can to wrap around that family and help place not only the child, but the family on the path for success.
I often find when I bring people on a show that have, mission based organizations such as FHSR, and there's normally some personal connection. Like in this case, of course, your son, and you
Mhm.
benefited from having that knowledge, and now you want other parents to have that knowledge. I mean, it's an amazing thing. You were blessed, and you chose to then take a portion of your life and to be a blessing with continuing the FHSR message. I'm just curious. Are there others that are tied to the organization that have similar stories? Because I feel like these types of organizations typically attract that type of talent.
Absolutely. In fact, everyone who sits around the table with me on my board of directors, on my advisory board, on my
Yeah.
associate board members have all either been personally touched by pediatric hearing loss, touched by hearing loss
Mm,
themselves, or are a professional working directly with children with hearing loss. That
mm,
group of intelligence and emotionally connected to our mission allows
mhm,
us to create and fund these unique programs that are really research, fact, family based to
mhm.
really create the most outstanding results for our children.
Now you started, when we were asking, when you were talking about your mission, you gave some statistics and you talked about, how
Mhm.
many families are affected with this and that maybe even go undiagnosed. What are some of the, reasons for that? Let's start there.
Some of the reasons for pediatric hearing loss can be anything from birth defect
Mm,
to a genetic disorder to babies who
mm,
spend time for other healthcare reasons in the ICU,
mm,
ototoxic events, meningitis. There's all kinds of things that can happen that can cause a child to have hearing loss that parents
mm.
initially may not be aware of, the disability or the congenitive disorder. So, really getting your child in and getting that hearing tested is a crucial first step to make sure that your baby has optimal hearing health.
Yeah, and I think that's a good transition to start going a little bit further into the campaign. So how did
Oh,
this
sure.
campaign come about? The 136 campaign. Mhm.
So, the Illinois Department of Public Health, with the Early Intervention Department in Illinois, did a study back in 2021, and they were trying to figure out how they were doing. They were measuring how they were doing on getting parents back in for that follow up appointment when the newborn baby failed their hearing screening. And what they came to find was that there was a 17% failure rate to follow up in larger
Mm,
metropolitan areas in Illinois. And so they worked on this idea of how can we put together and motivate parents. So we
mm,
collaborated and created the 136 program.
mm,
The 1, the 3, and the 6 all stand for month milestones. So when your baby is 1 month of age, if they failed that newborn hearing screening, we want them back into a pediatric audiologist department to get retested. If in fact they fail that second and third follow up, that they're then
mm,
enrolled in a plan. They're starting to get a diagnostic plan put together by the time the baby is 3 months of age. And by the time
mhm,
the baby is 6 months of age, they've got a plan. The parents have established their team and they're
mm,
enrolled in early intervention. Early intervention is a wonderful system that provides direct services to babies and families within their home from the time the baby is born up until 3 years of age if they have a disability. Hearing loss does qualify for that. So we want to
mm.
make sure those families are getting their team together and the babies have everything they need to help get them on the path for success.
Yeah, and it seems to me like, obviously, there's gonna be a percentage of that are gonna need ongoing treatment. Maybe some of the
Mhm.
individuals that, the babies that were had some type of issue in the first place, maybe it was corrective, maybe they could, some things could be corrected, but if they weren't, it sounds to me like there would be a bit of a reason to have them just in that system of understanding. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Adam. A lot of babies who go in, a large percentage actually of babies who go in for
Mhm.
their second follow up exam, they end up getting cleared. Perhaps it's
Yeah.
fluid in the ears, they may need tubes, it may just be a faulty exam, maybe it wasn't administered correctly,
Mhm.
or the baby was fussy at the time and they
Yeah.
couldn't get a good read on it. So they come back and they do another read and they're fine. But for that
Mm,
percentage, that 10% of babies who it does end up being handicapped hearing loss, we want them in the system. We want them gathering their team. Those are the ones that the foundation is working to support because we know that
mm,
those are the families that need the most support. When your child is born with hearing loss, it can knock you off your feet. It's hard enough
mhm.
to have a new
Yeah.
baby, let alone to find out your baby has a disability. And most babies are born to hearing parents. So it's not
Mm,
something that they're even anticipating. It's not on a radar. So we want
yeah.
to make sure that those parents have all the supports that they need. And a lot of that is getting involved, getting enrolled in early intervention, and really
Mhm.
putting your team together so that you can have that support system that's so
Mm.
necessary.
How have you found that when hearing loss goes undetected, what happens to the children? Like after, like it doesn't get found. They didn't see this campaign maybe, or they didn't, or maybe
Mm.
their parent didn't go for that follow-up visit. That statistic you mentioned, like what happens to the kids?
Yeah, unfortunately, what happens when hearing problems are undetected or untreated for an extended period of time, it can lead to speech and language delays.
Mm,
Language is layered in how we acquire it, and babies start hearing while they're still in their mother's tummy. So, the longer the delay is to getting that child access to sound,
mm,
the longer and harder it is going to be for them to acquire language and speech. So, to
yeah,
really think about that idea that the faster you look into it, the
yeah.
faster you take action, the less workload it's going to be for your child to acquire language and speech.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier. You said that most children are born to, hearing parents, number one,
Mhm.
and number two, which I don't know this yet. I don't have children, but it's tough. It's tough when
Oh
you're.
yeah.
I can't even imagine. Like, okay, you just had this huge event that happened, especially if it's your first child. You just have this huge event that happens, and you have all these things to like do and to prepare for, and this is like a very, very important box that needs to be checked, that if it doesn't go checked could really affect the child's quality of living
Mhm.
going forward. Like, how is this information delivered typically?
So actually, you are told as you're checking out of the hospital with your newborn, and
Oh,
the
wow.
nurse comes
That's
in
tough.
and says, "Oh, by the way, your child didn't pass the newborn hearing screening. You need to make sure you go and get a follow up." It's it's at a time where, as a new mom, I distinctly remember barely paying attention to it because I was
Mhm.
so overwhelmed with the idea that I suddenly had this live infant that I had to take home, and I was suddenly in charge of this individual.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and it doesn't even land or register. So
Yeah.
we're trying to really get together with our community leaders, with our medical service
Mhm.
providers, the nurses, the doctors, all of the doulas, the support staff,
Mhm.
your church leaders, to really create knowledge about what happens and
Yeah.
what parents can do, to get them over to the website fhsr.org
Mhm.
136, so that they can help anyone within their community know what to
Yeah.
do when they found out that their baby has hearing loss.
Yeah, it seems to me like the parents. So when you think about the parent side of things, so this isn't, again, they're in a tough spot. And like you said,
Yeah.
they're leaving the hospital, they're just getting this thing. It's kind of an aside, or oh, by the way.
Hmm.
So it seems interesting to me that for the parent side of things, as they have, no parent wants to intentionally cause their child harm, I don't believe. Like nobody's
No.
gonna say they wanna, they're gonna just skip this or it's another thing. But I can imagine the busyness of it, going, right after the event happens, right after the childbirth. So for the parent side of things, like what are some of the things, and the reason I bring this up is because the community leaders, I believe, are in the same boat. They don't want to intentionally keep this information from their, whether it's religious leaders from their congregation or from, their voters, or like from their school, the school system, like all these things. Like nobody wants to keep the information from it. But it seems to me like there's some failure there. There's like a gap. There's something that's happening. Like how do you think, of course, the 136 campaign, this is a huge part of it,
Hmm.
I believe, and the more people that get to know this information, the better. But how do you think we kind of, or what are the plans to systematize this so that going forward, maybe somebody doesn't see this interview or somebody doesn't see the campaign, or like how's this problem like solved permanently?
Excellent. We are at the foundation committed to creating awareness around this issue. Um,
Hmm.
you are correct. It is something, nobody does it with intention.
Yeah.
Nobody, thinks I'm just going to ignore that. That doesn't matter. Everybody, it is strictly a lack of awareness
Yeah.
and a communication issue. So, as a foundation, we took on this mission to really help with that communication and that awareness.
Mhm.
Um, when you have a newborn baby, everyone says, "Oh, I hope
Mm.
everyone's healthy. How's mom? Is she healthy? Is everyone healthy?" I want the second question to be, or the third question to be, how's the baby's hearing? Because
Yeah.
I think if we start making it more of a common question by creating this awareness within
Mm,
multiple interacting communities, it will
mm,
really help those parents who are in that position. It'll be the moment of, oh my gosh, I do need to make
mm,
that appointment, or I need to get my aunt to make that appointment for me so that we can get the baby in and get that hearing checked again because there was an issue with the initial hearing.
mm. Yeah, it makes sense. It's almost like as the follow-up and figuring out how to incorporate that into what's next for the baby. Like how's the baby's hearing?
Exactly.
And this 136 campaign, do they get like pamphlets or different flyers or things like that? I'm just curious on the delivery on that piece of it.
Yes, so we have all kinds of printed materials that,
Mhm.
we'll be distributing throughout hospitals, throughout local
Yeah.
churches and community centers, just to really work on that whole communication aspect
Mm.
and, work with people like yourself. Thank you, who care so
Yeah.
much about mission mattering and really taking the time to meet with us to create
Mhm.
awareness around pediatric hearing loss.
In terms of let's talk about the website. So fhsr.org/136. Maybe tell us a little bit more about the resources that parents can find there. Cause I definitely want everyone to check this out. And then also if you may not be a new parent yourself, but you may have someone in your community or in your circle or
Yeah.
otherwise. And I think what you mentioned about having people ask that question, how's the baby's hearing? If imagine like, let me just dream for a moment. I do like to dream here, Kristen. Imagine if when parents are talking about how tall the baby was, how many inches and how much it weighed, if we can kind of get that brainwashed into, and the baby can hear well, the baby's like, imagine if those three things were linked, we would have those numbers would be much better. But please tell us a little bit more about the website.
I love that, Adam, and I'm going to need you to help me with that moving forward when we
Yeah,
get out of this piece of it.
yeah.
That's a great idea. So
It's an
on the
anchor.
website,
It's an anchor.
I love it. Specifically,
Mm,
we've created the 136 page, which really will help parents source out their local pediatric audiology clinic and help them
mm,
make an appointment. It goes through key information about what parents
mm,
need to know regarding the hearing loss test, regarding what's going to be coming up, things, questions they should be asking, issues that may be
mm,
presented. So, really, it's our goal to educate the parent as much as we possibly can and to
mhm,
ease the process as much as we possibly can for them. When you take a step back and you look a little bit broader at our website, we have a lovely program in there, an online program called Ages and Stages. That starts with the minute you find out your child has hearing loss. So let's say you find
mm,
out at 2 months your child has hearing loss. We pick up right there and it walks you through things like what an audiogram is. Most parents
mm,
don't know what an audiogram is or how to read an audiogram or the million and one acronyms that you need to know when your child has hearing loss. We literally take the family by their hand and walk them through and educate them through the whole process. It's
mm,
written for parents by parents, so we're not using language that is confusing or doesn't make sense. We really try and keep it so that you can
mm.
um, digest it as quickly and easily as possible, and then take the next step for action. And we provide those next steps both in the 136 and then also throughout our entire website.
Hmm. It's great. And we'll definitely put the website and all the information in the
Oh,
show
thank you.
notes so that our audience can just click on the links and head right on over. Well, Kristen, I just want to say really appreciate having you on the show today and learning more about FHSR and all the great things that you're doing over in Illinois to really help newborns and to help families and parents. I just have to ask, I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for FHSR?
Well, personally, I'm committed to being here. This is my mission. It's my passion project. I love working with this organization and with the individuals with whom I have the privilege of working. The foundation is continuing to fund and create unique programs. We just recently created an education coordinator program that also works to train parents to be their child's best advocate for their education choices and for their educational supports. We really do firmly believe in the power of education. So we're throwing both our thoughts and our energy and our power behind working to partner strongly with parents on education and helping those children have the best outcome.
That's wonderful. Again, really appreciate you coming on the show, and this is great. And
Thank
I'm going to
you.
continue to follow this story. And for everybody watching, again, FHSR.org is the main website, and then FHSR fhsr.org/136 to learn more about the 136 campaign. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging in an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, what gets them fired up to get up in the morning out of bed and want to go out into the world and make a difference. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Kristen, again, thank you, and thank you for all your hard work and all you're doing to help families in Illinois.
Thanks, Adam. Really appreciate it. Thank you.